I thought I was doing everything right, exercising, taking my supplements, watching my weight. But my erections were still weak. Then I found out it was the food I thought was healthy that was quietly ruining everything today. I want to show you the 5 biggest food mistakes I see older men make. And if you're over 60 and still want to enjoy a strong, healthy sex life, food 1, vegetable oil. Let me introduce you to Carl. Carl was 67 when he walked into my office. Tall, lean, and polite to a fault. He looked like a man who had taken good care of himself. He didn't smoke, barely drank, walked 3 miles every morning, took all the right supplements. But behind the polite smile, Carl was struggling. He had recently started dating again after losing his wife. And although things were going well emotionally, he confessed something painful. "I haven't had a full erection in over a year, Doc," he paused, "and I'm terrified that if I get close to her, she'll find out." Now Carl had already tried the usual suspects. He'd been prescribed a little blue pill, but he didn't like the way it made him feel: racing heart, flushed face, that awkward feeling of being forced into arousal. He wanted to feel normal again. Not like a machine you have to plug in every time you want to perform. So I asked him about something most doctors don't. I asked about his kitchen. What do you cook with? What oils do you use? How often do you eat out? Carl pulled out a small notebook. He was that kind of guy, disciplined. He showed me a week's worth of meals. Stir-fries, omelets, roasted vegetables, all cooked with healthy oils: canola, safflower, soybean, corn. "I switched from butter years ago," he said proudly. "I use vegetable oil for everything now." And there it was. Carl's biggest mistake wasn't lack of discipline, it was misinformation. See, for decades, vegetable oils were marketed as the better choice. Lighter, cleaner, cholesterol-free, but here's what they don't tell you. These oils are heavily refined, often chemically extracted using solvents like hexane. They're high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fats, far too high, and this creates chronic inflammation inside your blood vessels. Now think about what an erection is: a surge of blood into soft, expandable tissue. If those blood vessels are stiff, inflamed, or partially blocked, the surge never happens, or it starts but dies halfway. Sound familiar? But that's not all. These oils also affect your hormones. Excess omega-6 fats have been linked to lower testosterone and poor sperm quality in older men. They even interfere with your body's ability to use omega-3s, the good fats your brain and heart desperately need. Carl had been cooking his health away, one stir-fry at a time. So here's what we did. We tossed every bottle of vegetable oil in his kitchen. We replaced them with cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, grass-fed butter, and unrefined coconut oil. 3 weeks later, he called me. "Doc," he said, "I don't want to jinx it, but something's different. I had a full erection this morning, first one in months." That was just the beginning. Because what Carl didn't realize, what most men don't realize, is that the healthier carbs they eat next to that oil, they're even worse. Let's talk about the next food that's quietly shutting you down, even when it says whole grain on the label. Food 2, PROCSSED-CARBS. Carl's story didn't end with the oils. Because once we fixed that part of his diet, something unexpected happened. He got hungrier. It turns out, the oils were doing more than inflaming his arteries, they were also numbing his fullness signals. Once they were gone, his body started sending out cravings in waves, and like most men trying to be good, he turned to what he thought was safe: whole wheat bread, granola, crackers, high-fiber cereals. "I figured if it's brown and says whole grain, I'm fine," he told me with a sheepish laugh. But that decision nearly reversed all the progress he'd made. Because here's what most men over 60 don't know. Processed carbohydrates, even the brown ones, are often just white carbs in disguise. And the moment they hit your bloodstream, they behave exactly the same way. Let me explain with someone else's story, because it might sound familiar. The story of David, the healthy eater who couldn't get it up. David was a 71-year-old retired teacher who prided himself on discipline. No soda. No candy, no desserts. His fridge was stocked with Greek yogurt, berries, hummus. His pantry, full of whole grain bread, couscous, brown rice, and oats. When he came to see me, he looked worried but not sick. "My wife thinks it's in my head," he said, "but I know something's wrong. I want her, I still love her, but nothing happens down there." We ran the usual tests. His testosterone was slightly low, but not enough to explain the problem. His cholesterol was high normal. His blood pressure was creeping up. But when I asked about his diet, I could see it immediately. David's blood sugar was on a roller coaster. That healthy, brown bread he ate with every meal, it spiked his glucose faster than a Snickers bar. His oatmeal with fruit in the morning, just as bad. Even his favorite, high-fiber cereal was a disaster. Why does this matter for erections? Because your penis is essentially a hydraulic system. It needs good blood flow, relaxed arteries, and stable blood sugar. When your sugar spikes and crashes constantly, several dangerous things happen. Insulin resistance builds up. This damages the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, making it harder to dilate. Nerve function deteriorates, especially in the small nerves responsible for arousal, sensation, and timing. Testosterone drops further. Chronically high insulin levels block testosterone production, even in men with otherwise healthy levels. You lose sensitivity. Even when you're mentally aroused, your body doesn't respond as quickly or at all. That was David's reality. He wasn't eating donuts. He was eating bread, and that bread was slowly starving his sex life. The hidden danger, glycemic load. Here's the part that shocked David most, and it shocks most men I treat. Whole wheat bread has a higher glycemic load than table sugar. That means bite for bite, it raises your blood sugar even faster than the white stuff. Why? Because modern wheat is so refined, even with some fiber left in, it's pulverized into tiny particles your body absorbs in minutes. Add that to a 60-year-old metabolism, slower insulin response, and a sedentary lifestyle. Boom! Instant blood sugar spike, instant hormonal disruption, and just like that, you lose your edge. But there's more. When your blood sugar stays high over time, your body starts converting that sugar into triglycerides, fats that clog your arteries, especially the small ones, and the penile arteries. They're about the width of a spaghetti noodle, the first to go when plaque builds. This is why, for many men, erectile dysfunction is the first warning sign of prediabetes or cardiovascular disease. Years before a heart attack ever strikes, the bedroom goes quiet. David's turnaround, the breadless rebound. So what did I tell David? We cut the carbs, not completely, but drastically. He swapped bread for lettuce wraps and almond flour crackers. He replaced oats with eggs and avocado. We added cinnamon, magnesium, and walking after meals to control his blood sugar. 2 months later, he sent me a one-line email. My wife says thank you profusely. He didn't just get his erections back. He got his confidence, his intimacy, and most importantly, his health. Because once blood sugar stabilizes, everything else follows. Cliffhanger to next part. But if you thought carbs were bad for blood flow, wait until you hear about the next food. One that's been banned in Europe, still sold in the US, and known to shrink testosterone by up to 25%. And chances are, it's in your fridge right now. Part 3, Food 3, POCSSED, and nitrates. Jim was 68, a widower recently remarried. His new wife was 15 years younger and, in his words, still very much interested. He wanted to meet her there, to give her what she deserved, to show her he still had it, but his body was letting him down, not because of stress, not because of low effort, but because of a stealth destroyer. He was eating almost every day processed meats. The protein trap. No one talks about. Men over 60 are told again and again, eat more protein, watch your carbs, build muscle to support testosterone. That advice isn't wrong, but it's dangerously incomplete. Because if your source of protein is coming from deli meats, sausages, bacon, ham, jerky, or those ready-made rotisserie chickens loaded with flavorings, you're swallowing a chemical cocktail that directly sabotages sexual health. Jim's favorite lunch, turkey and cheese on a low-carb wrap. His breakfast, bacon and eggs every day. His dinner, chicken breast from the store, already seasoned and grilled. And each one of those meals was slowly bleeding his testosterone dry. Let me explain. What's really inside that slice of ham? Processed meats aren't just meats, they're chemical sponges. To keep them shelf-stable, flavorful, and visually appealing, manufacturers add sodium nitrite, a preservative that turns pink when cooked, phosphates, to retain water and mimic juiciness, flavor enhancers, like monosodium glutamate, MSG, artificial smoke flavor, made from hydrocarbons, sugar, often hidden under names like dextrose or maltodextrin. And here's what these ingredients do inside your body. White heavy checkmark nitrites. Once ingested, they convert into nitrosamines, a class of compounds directly linked to endothelial damage, testicular shrinkage, and even DNA disruption in sperm cells. White heavy checkmark phosphates, associated with arterial calcification, especially dangerous in men with kidney issues or high blood pressure. White heavy checkmark preservatives trigger inflammatory responses that silently clog arteries and reduce nitric oxide availability, the gas that allows erections to happen. White heavy checkmark artificial hormones and antibiotics. Still found in low doses in processed meats, these chemicals act as endocrine disruptors, reducing testosterone and increasing estrogenic effects. For a man over 60, already fighting the tide of aging, this is like throwing gasoline on a fire. Jim's numbers told the truth when we tested Jim. His total testosterone was 382 ng/dl. Borderline. But worse than that, his free testosterone, the amount actually available to his body, was only 5.8 pg/ml. That's not low, that's castration level for functionality. No wonder he couldn't perform. He had the hormone levels of a man 20 years older and a sexual response that mirrored it. What's more, his blood tests showed elevated homocysteine, a marker of cardiovascular inflammation, and his CRP, another inflammation signal, was twice the optimal range. This wasn't about age. This was about chemistry. The rebuild, cutting the poisoned protein. Here's what we did. No more cold cuts, not even the natural ones. No more bacon unless it was nitrate-free, organic, and sparing. We switched to grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken, and wild-caught fish, cooked at home. He began eating more plant-based fiber, especially cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, arugula, cabbage, to help his liver clear estrogenic compounds. And after just 6 weeks, his free testosterone jumped to 9.4 pg/ml. His morning erections returned, stronger, longer lasting. And for the first time in 2 years, he initiated intimacy without anxiety. Jim called it a quiet miracle, but it wasn't a miracle. It was just removing the poison that had been passing for protein. Quick myth buster: isn't bacon good for testosterone? You've probably seen videos or articles saying things like, bacon raises testosterone. They're wrong, or at least dangerously oversimplified. Yes, fat is essential for hormone production, but saturated fat paired with nitrates and preservatives becomes a hormonal bomb. You may produce more testosterone briefly, only to have your blood vessels destroyed in the process. The result? No erections, no circulation. Just a number on a lab test with nothing to show for it. That's not health, that's delusion. Now here's the most shocking part of this list. The next food isn't junk. It's not candy, it's not processed meat. It's something doctors have been recommending for decades. You've probably been told to drink it for your heart. But if you're over 60 and you want to keep your sex life alive, this common health beverage could be the silent killer of your erections. Food 4, refined vegetable oils. Imagine waking up one morning feeling that familiar spark, the surge of blood, the flush of desire, the proof that your body still remembers how to be a man. Now imagine that spark slowly fading day by day until it's gone. No warning, no pain, just silence. And behind the scenes, a quiet killer lurking in the foods you think are healthy. For Jack, a 68-year-old retired firefighter, this was the reality. He was a tough guy, no nonsense, a man who prided himself on his strength and stamina, both on the job and off. But when his erections started to betray him, he blamed age. Just getting old, he told himself. Yet deep inside, Jack felt something else: frustration, fear, a silent shame that made him avoid intimacy altogether. Then one day, his doctor, after reviewing his diet, pointed to the invisible enemy in his kitchen pantry. Refined vegetable oils. What are refined vegetable oils? You might think of these oils as heart-healthy. After all, they're low in saturated fats, right? But refined vegetable oils like canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, and safflower oils are anything but benign. They're highly processed, chemically extracted, and packed with omega-6 fatty acids. While omega-6s are essential in small amounts, modern diets have thrown the balance way out of whack. The typical Western diet has a 20:1 or even 30:1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, when the ideal ratio is closer to 1:1 or 2:1. This imbalance sparks chronic inflammation in your arteries, the same arteries that must deliver blood to your heart, your brain, and your penis. How refined oils starve your penis erections depend on the flow of oxygen-rich blood. Your body uses nitric oxide, a signaling molecule, to relax the smooth muscle in your penile arteries, letting blood rush in. Chronic inflammation from excess omega-6 fatty acids damages the delicate lining of these arteries, called the endothelium, making it harder for nitric oxide to do its job. Over time, this results in arterial stiffness and narrowing. The medical term is atherosclerosis. That means your penis isn't getting the blood it needs to become firm. The silent attack on your vascular health slowly erodes your ability to perform. Jack's story, from frustration to freedom. When Jack eliminated refined vegetable oils from his diet, he didn't just replace the oils. He overhauled his entire approach to fat, cooking with extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil instead of cheap, processed oils. Eating more fatty fish like salmon to boost omega-3 intake. Adding nuts and seeds in moderation. Cutting back on fried foods, packaged snacks, and fast food, main culprits for hidden refined oils. Within weeks, Jack noticed a change. His energy improved. His mind felt sharper. And the most important change, his erections began to return, slowly but surely. Why you can't just rely on heart-healthy labels can be deceiving. Many heart-healthy products use refined vegetable oils as cheap fillers. Salad dressings, mayonnaise, margarine, crackers, and even some protein bars hide these oils behind fancy names like partially hydrogenated oil, polyunsaturated fats, omega-6 rich oils. You must read labels closely. This is the hidden enemy sabotaging your sexual health. The bigger picture: inflammation is the root of decline. Refined vegetable oils are just one part of a much larger problem. Chronic low-grade inflammation is the silent enemy behind erectile dysfunction, heart disease, diabetes, and cognitive decline. If your diet is full of inflammatory foods, it's like setting a slow-burning fire inside your body, one that eventually consumes your vitality. Cliffhanger to conclusion: we've uncovered 5 foods silently destroying your ability to have strong erections after 60. But what if I told you the most powerful weapon to fight back isn't just avoiding these foods? It's embracing one simple, overlooked nutrient that restores your blood flow, supercharges your hormone balance, and reignites your desire. In the next video, I'll reveal this secret weapon, backed by science and thousands of patient transformations. Until then, ask yourself, are you ready to reclaim your manhood? Because it starts not with pills or surgeries, but with what you put on your plate.